Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell, and if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. We've got a great show for you today, and I know that you're going to love it. On the show today, we're going to be speaking with Gene Scholten, all about his experience of being fired from his job and then denied unemployment benefits simply for practicing his right to keep and bear arms on company property. You're going to find it quite eye-opening. Then in segment 3, we'll be speaking with defense attorney Terry Johnson, who will talk about the rights you have as an employee and the rights of property owners. What can the company do to you? What can they make you do? What can they disallow? So that's coming up. This week's show, all about guns banned on company property. Gun rights versus property rights. Very controversial. It's not cut and dried. It's not black and white. You're going to love this, and you may change your opinions. But before we get into that, let's talk about my brain. My brain has not atrophied. It's still there, still operating at about 50%. I want to talk today about the importance of getting along with your neighbors. I've had bad neighbors and I've had good neighbors. Right now, I've got pretty good neighbors. You've heard me talk about a couple of them before. I've got the retired Lieutenant Colonel, Army Ranger across the road. I want you all to pray for him this week. He's just been diagnosed with kidney cancer. He's going in for treatment, but please pray for him and his wife. Their names are Don and Rita. Great people, great neighbors. Please pray for them. And then, of course, I've got the Swift Boat vet from Vietnam. Bill, he just gave me a sack of zucchini and green peppers and summer squash. Just a great neighbor to have. And then I have my neighbor down the road, Brad. I got a phone call from him this morning. I listened to the phone message because I was in here recording. And he says, Skip, have you seen my pigs? Right about then, Sarah walks into the studio and says, hey, those pigs are back again. And this has been, this is the 4th time in the past week or so that Brad's pigs have gotten out. I walk out there and sure enough, there's 4 big pigs there. They don't worry me too much. The one is a big boar. He's probably about 300 pounds. He's got, nuts the size of Texas and, big old tusk. So I just said, hey, keep the kids in the house. We don't want them being eaten by a 300-pound boar. But I call up Brad and he comes down and, I helped him round his pigs up. But he'd been searching in the swamp behind my house for about 3 hours, he said. My point is, some people would get real upset. It's like, hey, this is the 4th time that this has happened. You're responsible for your pigs. Take care of your pigs. They're on my property. They're eating all of my plants. My response is, hey, water off a duck's back. I know pigs get out. He'll do a better job. He'll fix it. But more important than his pigs eating my plants is the relationship that I have with him. Because when you talk about home defense, your neighbors can be a wonderful ally as you try to protect your family. I mean, we have a neighborhood watch here. Brad and Don and Rita and Bill, they're all in the neighborhood watch. We're in it together. So we need to stick together. Little things like that, okay, so your pigs got out. Not a big deal. Now if they try and eat one of my children, then I'll shoot them. And Brad would say, hey, that's a pretty good shot. And we just deal with it at that point. But it's not worth getting upset about. It's not worth a friendship. It's not worth throwing the entire neighborhood into turmoil. These are pigs, right? If they were Bengal tigers, yeah, we'd talk a little bit more. But these are pigs. Not a big deal. It's possible that some of you listening were born and raised in the city and you don't understand that. But this is a pig. You shoot them, you gut them out, you skin them, you smoke the hams and make the bacon, and then you eat them. So, hey, always strive to have the best relationship that you can with your neighbors because it's important. They are important eyes and ears for your family and for your community. All right, well, hey, about enough of that. I am just having a great time, a great summer. This is the end of July already. Can you guys believe that? I love the weather. It's been cool, between 70 and 85 degrees. It's wonderful. Getting all kinds of vegetables from my garden. I just stir-fried up some zucchini, summer squash, and peppers in bacon grease, and I added some turmeric, some garlic powder, onions, salt and pepper. Oh man, and I just ate a big bowl of it, and I've got that nice warm burn inside my stomach, and I just feel fantastic. But I'll let that go for now because last week we didn't get a chance to go through the news. So let's find out what's in the news right now. Okay, we'll start out on Drudge Report because we haven't got any national news lately. The first headline that caught my eye was a bit unusual. It says, wild monkeys roaming Florida and breeding like, well, monkeys. And they took this off USA Today. Orlando, Florida. It's not quite Planet of the Apes, but brands of feral rhesus macaque monkeys are roaming Central Florida, scaring families with their aggressive behavior, making homes in suburban backyards, and puzzling wildlife officials who struggle to curb their growing number. Folks, just between you, me, and the wall, these monkeys would only be in my backyard just the one time. And I think I would use my AR-15 because there's a lot. I saw a video tip. There's a lot of monkeys. You're talking about dozens of monkeys in your backyard. What are you going to do about that? Hey, gun them down. Just, go for the headshot. Make it humane if you can. But, hey, I will not have monkeys attacking my children. I've got a 6, 7, 11-year-old. If it's me or the monkeys are going to go. So, in fact, that reminds me of a story. Have you ever eaten a monkey? Do you know what they taste like? I've only eaten one monkey. I was in Panama, the Canal Zone. I was with the Marine Corps back in 1976 at a jungle warfare training camp put on by Army, Green Berets mostly. And we went out into the jungle, shot a monkey, skinned it, gutted it out, roasted it over an open fire. And I gotta tell you, that was the worst tasting meat I've ever had in my life. It looked like a little baby on a stick over the fire. And we tasted it. The only thing I can liken the taste to is that it tasted like the monkey crapped through its skin. It was just terrible, terrible taste. Of course, I was a big tough Marine, young at the time. So I gobbled it down and pretended like, oh yeah, this is good stuff. These Army Green Beret guys, they were probably laughing their butts off later on. Did you see those Marines eat that monkey? I can't believe they did that. But hey, that's just my monkey story. I will never, ever eat monkey again. But hey, in Florida, they got a problem with monkeys. Too many monkeys, and they are in the wrong place. They've got video. I watched the video. These monkeys are in people's backyards. They're tearing everything up. They says they're protecting their turf and that there's nothing to be worried about. Well, you know what? If the monkey, dozens of monkeys, 50 monkeys in my backyard, and that's their turf, we're about to have a gang war because I will use my opposable thumbs. I'll use my tools, and I will put these monkeys down. I will put them to rest. So Florida, Orlando, send all your monkeys up here to Michigan. We know exactly what to do with them. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, here's something unusual. Machete-swinging MTA worker arrested after brawling with man holding trash can on Broadway. All right, yeah, this is in Lower Manhattan. This is from NBCNewYork.com. A Metro Transit Authority security guard was arrested after he swung a machete and threatened the man with a gun as he fought with him on an Upper West Side, authorities say. Now, I watched the video news report about this afterwards. And you see these two guys going at it. Two big, strong, burly guys. The one's got a machete and he's hacking away at this other guy. And he picks up a trash can, he holds it over his head, and he's fending off this guy with a machete who's literally trying to kill him, hack him to bits. The MTA security guard eventually dropped the machete, and he retreated to his vehicle. And the guy, the victim, chased him to his car, pulled open the door, and he's just wailing on this security guard. And this was an off-duty security guard. So he's in plain clothes, and people are standing around, videotaping this. It's like, I used to say only in New York City, but that's what people do everywhere now. If someone needs help, I go, well, as soon as I'm done videotaping this and putting it on Facebook, then I'll call 911. You just can't depend on help from bystanders anymore. But long story short is, after research, this MTA security guard was mad at this pedestrian because he was driving down the road and the pedestrian was typing on his iPhone and he wasn't paying attention and he walked in front of the guy. That enraged this security guard. So he got out, pulled out the machete, and starts going after the guy. It's just bizarre. It's like, what is wrong with the world today? Everyone is crazy. Well, I really think that we need to get armed, that we need to get trained. You have to protect your family. People are feeling way too secure right now for their own good. I've said it before, just because Donald Trump is president doesn't mean you're safe. In fact, what has really changed since Donald Trump became president? I mean, none of his agenda has been enacted other than some executive orders and a Supreme Court nominee pick. So not a whole lot is getting done. Not a whole lot is changing. In my mind, we are at risk. I think things are going to get worse. I want you to get out there, get armed, get trained. Okay, coming up, we'll be speaking with Gene Scholten all about his experience getting fired from his job for exercising his Second Amendment rights. And then after that, with Terry Johnson, defense attorney. Get his take on that. Okay, this is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. You're going to have about 2 minutes while you're listening to our great sponsors. I want you to go ahead, do some arm curls. I'm not talking about drinking beer, okay? I'm talking about 50-pound weights. Get them up there, curl them over your head. Don't slack off. Work off that fat. Do all that, get your blood pressure up, get your heart rate up. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is CJ Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe 1. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe 1 is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe 1 today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you. All right, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. On segment 2 today, we have a special guest. He's one of my former concealed carry students, Gene Scholten. Gene, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thank you.
All right, Gene, now you have a very unusual story. Something happened to you that doesn't happen to most people. You ended up losing your job because you exercised your right to keep and bear arms. Is that not correct?
That is 100% correct.
All right. Well, Gene, before we get into that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything that you don't mind being public information. Who is Gene Scholten?
I am a medical professional. I am a nurse, actually, and I do a lot of traveling for the clinic that I was employed by. I would go to some very unfavorable areas in Michigan at very early times in the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning. The areas I'm referring to is like downtown Benton Harbor, downtown Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, and even as far south as Mishawaka, Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not knowing the area in Mishawaka, I always carry.
Right. Well, that just kind of makes sense. Okay, and so you would have to walk through unsavory parking areas that really don't feel safe to you.
They don't feel safe. The one in Benton Harbor is actually a fenced-in area where we park, and there is actually a guard that opens the gate after they see your credentials and let you in.
Well, I know about Benton Harbor. I mean, nothing from the people there, but I know that it's not considered to be the best area. It's appears to be a high crime area as well. So I certainly don't blame you for carrying there.
Statistics show in Benton Harbor, you stand a 1 in 34 chance of being involved in a violent crime.
Oh, wow. Well, that's higher odds than I want to deal with. That's for sure. All right. Well, hey, why don't you go ahead and just, Gene, tell us how you came to be fired from your job. What's the story there?
My employer has a zero tolerance policy, and the day before, I was working down in Kalamazoo, and I worked quite long hours, 12, 14 hours a day, and I do not carry in the building because it is considered a medical facility, just like a hospital. I put my gun, I have a lunch box that never comes out. I just throw my ink pens and, my stethoscope in there and, everything else. I had my gun in there, and I left work after my shift in Holland, got to my car, unlocked my car. My car was locked my entire shift. Took my Gatorade, just kind of threw it in the car, and oh crap, I forgot my coffee cup. Locked my car, walked in. I was in the building for less than 15 seconds, grabbed my coffee cup, got in my car, and left. Got a phone call the next morning, don't bother coming into work. And I said, what's up with this? And they said, somebody said that they saw your gun. Okay, for one thing, what are they doing in my vehicle? Put me on 2 days suspension. I got a phone call from HR. Their first question, do you own a gun? Yeah, several. did you have your gun with you on that day? I said, yeah. I said, it was in my lunchbox. And they said, well, this is violation of company policy. And I said, so you're basically telling me that I can't exercise my Second Amendment rights. I said, I am legal to carry this gun. You send me to unfavorable locations. I am going to carry this gun. A day later, I got a phone call from my clinical manager and his boss saying, you no longer have a job. You were fired because you violated company policy. Okay, I guess if you want to play it that way, I guess. So I went right away down to unemployment. And it took 8 weeks of going back and forth with unemployment, and it finally ended up going to arbitration with a judge. What the employer was saying was it was a violation of company policy. I pulled up a copy of my company policy, and it says in clinic locations or in the clinic. Well, I never had my gun in the clinic. It was in my vehicle, locked in my vehicle. They started disputing it, and the judge said, to my employer, did you see the gun? And the gentleman from HR said, no, I'm in Tennessee. And so the judge said, so you didn't see the gun? He goes, no, it is a violation of company policy. I said, the company policy that I have says in locations. I said, I can carry this gun basically to pick up my children from school as long as I don't go in the building with it. What is the difference if it's in my vehicle? And he said, because it's company policy. I said, well, I don't care about your company policy at this point. Unfavorable locations, I am going to protect myself. He got really defensive about it. I said, okay. I said, do you have children? Do you have a wife? He goes, yeah. I said, would you let them walk around in a parking lot at 4 o'clock in the morning? And he hesitated. I said, what about the family of a coworker in Florida that works for the same company that was walking into work at 5 o'clock in the morning, went to go open his door, went to go reach for his lunchbox, and got shot and got killed right in your parking lot? I said, how would you explain that to his family, that if he would have been armed, he would have stood a chance of surviving? Do you explain that? And the judge, she reminded me of Judge Judy. Very, very sarcastic. Probably in her early 70s, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Very, very liberal Democrat. She basically shut HR up and said, well, the way we're dealing with this is he has a right to practice his Second Amendment rights. And you, as an employer, are required to pay him until he finds a job, his regular wages.
Wow.
And me being a nurse and being with the company for 7 years, no written warnings, no disciplinary actions taken at all. So I'm kind of, I'm looking for a job, but I'm just kind of like living the dream right now. Getting a paycheck and.
Yeah. How old are you, Gene?
I am 52.
Okay, so yeah, you still got a lot of good years in you, and you probably would have stayed with that company maybe through to retirement if they hadn't have done this to you.
I just kind of, I just want people to know that if you follow the steps that they tell you to follow with unemployment, you will win. Their documentation is not squat.
Yeah. Well, you won your unemployment benefits, and you had a liberal Democrat judge. So actually, you did really quite well. I'm impressed, Gene. Now, how exactly did they find out that you were carrying a gun? I mean, did they actively search your vehicle or not?
I'm not positive. I know that there was another employee that was leaving same time I was, and they were parked right next to me. And I had backed in, and they had backed in also. And when I took everything out of my pockets and threw it in my lunchbox, I left my lunchbox unzipped. It was shut, and ran in and got my coffee cup. And when I came out, I walked out the door, and she's staring at the floorboard of my car.
Mm.
And the gun, I hit it with my Gatorade, and the gun fell out, along with everything else
I
that was in
see.
there.
So just kind of a
And,
fluke, huh?
you have no right to be looking in my car and figuring out what I have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the reason that they fired me was misconduct and threatening the company.
Threatening the company. How did you?
Threatening the company.
Okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. They sound like they were reaching for straws. I know it's a national issue. I was looking it up while I was waiting to call you, Gene, and there are 20 states already in America that have some type of laws on the books that protect employees from things of this nature that allow you to carry a gun in your car on company property. But unfortunately, Michigan is not one of those places.
And I think Michigan should be.
Oh, I
I mean,
definitely agree.
Holland is a fairly safe community.
Hmm.
But at 4 o'clock in the morning, nothing is safe.
Yeah, that's true.
We
That's true.
we've had probably in the last month, within 5 miles of my house, we've had 4 shootings.
Hmm. Wow.
And I live right by the hospital,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
so I get to see all the cop cars go flying by and back to the hospital, and then a day later I find out what actually happened. There's some weirdos walking around there, and
In the last 5 years or so, Holland is not as safe as it used to be. There's a lot of gang activity
yes,
in that area now, and that's going to definitely affect crime. Gene, we're about out of time for this segment, but I want to
okay,
thank you very much for sharing your story, and I especially want to thank you for standing up to this company who was violating your civil rights, your right to keep and bear arms. Gene, I applaud you, and I hope that I see you again in some concealed carry training further down the road, Gene.
yep. And I'm kind of planning on having my wife take your class in September.
That would be awesome. It's going to be great
Yeah.
weather. Why don't you show up with her and we can chew the fat a little bit and get caught up on things. Okay, Gene?
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Skip.
Okay, folks, this is Skip Coyle on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. I want you to get down on your hands and knees there and get in the prone position. Do about 25 push-ups one-handed if you can. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with Joel Fulton from Freedom Firearms in Battle Creek, Michigan. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a-knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Segment 2, that was fantastic. We were speaking with Gene Scholten, how he was fired from his job, a good job, for storing his handgun, his licensed handgun, in his car on company property. Now, I would like to speak with Terry Johnson, defense attorney. Terry, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Skip, thank you. Always, always, always a pleasure to be with you.
And you are certainly a seasoned veteran of the Home Defense Show, and you are a representative of Firearms Legal Protection, one of our show sponsors, correct?
That is correct, and we appreciate that and want to make sure that on the Home Defense Show that your listeners are protected, and I think no one does a better job of protecting you than Firearms Legal Protection.
I agree, and that's why FLP is the only legal protection that is recommended by the Home Defense Show. All right, Terry, let's get right to the meat of this. Gene Scholten, he had a dangerous job. They would send him out at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning in dangerous urban areas, and he'd have to walk through deserted parking lots in the dark by himself. He went ahead and he made the decision to carry, not on his person, but in his car, in his personal truck, while he was on company business. When another employee saw the gun, reported him, he was terminated, and then they denied him unemployment benefits. He took them to court for that. The judge says, you have to pay a regular wage until he gets a new job. So he won that court battle, but he still lost a good job. This is a confusing issue for a lot of people. Property rights versus right to keep and bear arms. What light can you shed on us for that, Terry?
Well, Skip, it's a very interesting subject. One of the things I believe a lot of people get confused is the fact that they say, hey, I've got a license to carry a concealed firearm. Here in Michigan, we obviously call it concealed pistol license. In other states, they may call it CCW, et cetera. But what that does, and in every state that I'm aware of, those permits do not trump the rights of property owners. So let me give you an example. In my home, if I want to say no firearms allowed, or in my business, no firearms allowed, I have a right to do that. I have a right to run my business the way that I want to run it. Now, there are some protocols and things that people have to do. For example, you don't want guns in your place. Someone can put a sign up, or some kind of notice has got to be given. The employer, however, is considered something a little different. They have the similar rights as a property owner, but what they have is they have a lever called an employment contract that they can utilize against you to get you to do what they want to do. So, for example, the gentleman you just mentioned earlier, while he may not have broken the law itself, in other words, no prosecutor is going to bring charges against him, he's lost his job. So he's lost his job because as a condition of his employment, he wasn't supposed to bring a firearm onto company property. So that's how that ended up happening for that gentleman.
Yeah, it's kind of a confusing issue for me. I'm ambivalent about it because I believe strongly in property rights. I mean, everyone believes strongly on property rights when it comes to their own property, but not quite as strongly when they want to do something what they want on someone else's property. It kind of goes that way. You know, I guess the wild card here is that the property owner in this case is an employer, and he's saying you have to follow my rules even inside your own vehicle because it's parked on my property, and because of the decision the employer makes, it renders the employee defenseless, not just while he's at the place of work, but also to and from. And that, I think that's the thing that bothers me most of all, because you're being disarmed the entire day.
I'll give you an example here in the Detroit area. The Wayne County prosecutor has, in the agreement with any of the assistant prosecuting attorneys of Wayne County, pretty much what you just said. They are not allowed to carry a firearm on their way to work or on their way home from work, even if the parking lot, and there is no specific parking lot for county employees there in Wayne County, even if the parking lot allows it, their position is no. And I think a lot of them do it for the following reasons, even with employers. They're afraid of being sued. If you take a state like Texas, Texas has basically come back and said employers cannot ban employees from having firearms in their personal vehicles on their property. Now, you can still ban someone from bringing it into the building, but in my personal vehicle on your property, it's still my property's on your property, therefore, you can follow the bouncing ball there. Unfortunately, there are a lot of employers that don't allow that. I don't really know the way around it. I like the Texas model, and I've said that before. Parking lots right now, if you have a concealed pistol license, again, for your viewers outside of Michigan, better known as a CCW or something along those lines, what happens in Michigan is you're allowed to carry it on those premises. Like, for example, a school. Mm-hmm. I can keep my firearm in a school, on the parking lot of a school. It can't come out of the vehicle. But employees who have CPLs, for example, teachers, in their contract, they can't have a firearm there. And again, I think a lot of it comes down to liability. I think they're saying if someone were to break into the vehicle and get a firearm, could the school, could the business be sued? And, unfortunately, we live in a litigious society.
Let's turn that around. Let's do a 180 on that. What if someone was not allowed to carry a gun for personal protection on company property, an active shooter came in, killed that person, and the widow of that dead employee, could they sue the company for disarming him and maybe causing indirectly his death?
Well, that's a great question. I want to take you back to a very close example to that, which was General Motors, their Warren Tech Center about a year ago. You had a gentleman that disarmed someone. He was kind of like a valet guy there. As part of his contract, he was not supposed to have a firearm on him. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is someone pulled a knife. Some gentleman pulled it on a lady, and this guy goes into action. He gets his firearm. He disarms the guy with the knife, and everybody's praising him as a hero, but the company turns around and fires him literally the next day. And after some bad press and some other things, they actually hired him again. I think there was also another issue, I want to say in Oklahoma, at a drugstore. Someone did the exact same thing. They had a firearm and they defended everyone, and the employee actually ended up getting fired. Getting back to your original question, Skip, can the widow, let's say, of someone come in and sue that person? That's a great question. That would depend upon the state law. Could they sue the employer? I promise you they will be named in that, even if the employer has something in their handbook or contract that says you're not to be armed. So either way, the employer is going to get sued because any good civil attorney is going to bring everybody in and let them find their way out one way or the other.
Just follow the money, huh?
That's right.
I guess the key here is the company, the employer, isn't doing this because he hates guns, he hates people to be able to protect themselves. He's just rolling the dice and playing the odds and saying, okay, no one's going to sue me if I disarm people, but people are going to sue me if I don't disarm my employees and one of them goes nuts, comes in with a gun and starts shooting people. Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is.
I know. I did a little bit of research, prior to our interview, and there are roughly 20 states. They have some type of parking lot law on the books that makes it illegal for the employer to forbid the employee to store a gun safely out of sight inside his vehicle. Is it constitutional for the state to pass a law like that as far as property rights go?
That's a great question. I would have to argue that if that parking lot is open to the general public, it's technically not, even though it's owned and operated by the employer and they're maintaining it, even though it's open to the public, in my opinion, because it's open to the public and my car is there, I should be able to have whatever I want in my car. And if I'm doing something illegal, that should be between me and the local police authority, not me and the employer. There's one other thing you want to keep in mind. Tennessee has recently passed, within the last year, a law that basically says to any store owner, fine, you can put a sign up all you want that says no firearms allowed. However, if someone gets into trouble in that store, for example, a robber comes in and they end up shooting me, that store is now liable for your protection. That's something I would love to see throughout the country. If you're going to disarm me, then if anything happens, you should be liable.
Yeah, I'm another example. I'm a Utah concealed carry instructor for non-resident permits. And the law that they passed in Utah for employers was, okay, you can go ahead and you can ban guns from inside people's vehicles. However, if you're going to do that, you have to provide for the employee a special parking lot that's fenced up with surveillance cameras, guards, and security where he can park so that you can control his firearm. It was interesting to note that after they passed that law, the employers stopped complaining about it, and not a single one wanted to spend the money to go ahead and provide that secure area for employees with guns.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, it is. It is. I would like to see them get some type of parking lot law in Michigan, maybe strike a balance between property rights and gun rights. Because on the one hand, it's like the car, it's not my home, but it's the next best thing that I have to my home, and it's my property, and I ought to be able to store it in my property what I want. But then you're driving your portable property onto someone else's property. I guess I'm more sympathetic to private property owners, like if I'm going to someone's house, but an employer to say, if you're going to work for me, you can't defend yourself here. That just grinds on me, but I'm a Second Amendment activist, so I think it's supposed to grind on me.
I'm with you.
Terry, thank you very much for coming on the show with us and helping us on this difficult topic. Before you go, tell people how they can get involved with firearms legal protection.
Skip, the easiest way is to go to our website, firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical. What you will find there is for as little as $9.95 a month, you will get uncapped attorney's fees, both criminally and civilly, in your home state. If you want to spend a little more, you can get bond up to $250,000 and be covered in all 50 states, plus some other things.
Firearms legal protection is my legal protection of choice, the only one that the Home Defense Show recommends. Terry, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show. We will definitely have you on again.
Always a pleasure, Skip, and to you and your listeners, stay safe.
All right, folks, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. While you're waiting, put down that mocha frappuccino. It's full of sugar. It's fattening. You don't want it. Just lay it down on the floor, kick it real slow over to me, and then run around the building about 10 times. Do 20 push-ups. By then, you'll be ready to listen to sound reason. This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey, folks. This is Skip Coryell, host of the Home Defense Show. I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat. It'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book, by yours truly, Skip Coryell. This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. All right, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Wow, we've had a lot of controversy pop up here. Property rights versus Second Amendment rights. Which one's more important? Which one takes precedent? It seems like we have a case here where one fundamental human right is bumping up with another fundamental human right. I firmly believe, as did our founding fathers, that every human has the right to own property. It stemmed all the way back to English common law with John Locke. They spoke specifically to landowners' rights. The king wanted all the land, and he wanted to take away the landowners' rights, and they said no. King George, prior to the American Revolution, he wanted to take away property rights. Why? Because that's what kings do. He's a dictator. And I think that's what the Founding Fathers were so concerned about. That's why we have the Fourth Amendment against illegal search and seizure. The king can't just come in there and take whatever he wants. I really don't believe that the Founding Fathers were thinking, even had the remotest concern, that property rights and gun rights would become adversaries. I really don't think they thought of that. If you had asked George Washington or John Adams or Benjamin Franklin, what takes precedent when a shopkeeper posts a sign on his door that says no guns allowed? I think they would have cocked their head and said, why in the world would a shopkeeper do that? The right to keep and bear arms is sacred. Why would anyone violate that? There's no reason for that. And I think that's why we're wrapped around the axle here, because we live in a time when the common sense, the accepted values of the Founding Fathers are no longer accepted. Terry Johnson, he said, we live in a society that's governed by litigation, one person suing another. And so company owners, they want to protect themselves. And so they're going to do whatever their lawyer tells them to do. The company lawyer says, hey, we have a better chance in court if we put up this sign that says no firearms allowed. What does that tell us that we have to do? Well, someone, this is just my opinion, someone needs to take a company to court and sue them for denying them their Second Amendment rights. How is that going to work? Will it work? I don't know. But until they are successfully sued, until companies lose money, they are not going to honor your right to keep and bear arms. And I don't necessarily blame them for that. I told you I feel ambivalent about that. I believe in their property rights. They have a right to regulate what goes on their property, in their buildings, their parking lots. Like Terry said, that's a place where the public can come and go. It's one thing to restrict an employee's right to keep and bear arms, but it's quite another to restrict the general public. Here's the problem that I see, and for me this is huge. It's not like you're going into work and the company says, okay, here's the dress code. As a condition of employment, you're going to wear a white shirt and a black tie and blue jeans. If they want to do that, fine. I don't care. The difference is you're disarming me. I don't care what I wear to work, even if I do care what I wear to work. All right, fine. If I don't do it, you fire me. Have a nice day, drive safely. I go get a different job. But the problem with employment contracts is they hold it to your head like a gun and say, okay, if you sign this contract, we will hire you, give you X number of dollars, and provide for your family. If you don't, then I'm sorry, go away, you can't work here. I don't think that's reasonable, primarily because by agreeing to this contract, I'm putting my life in danger. That's not like blue jeans, a white shirt, and a black tie. That's different. If I have to wear those clothes, it's not going to kill me. I may not like it, but it's not going to kill me. If I agree to be disarmed, I'm disarmed from the moment I get in my car in the morning to drive to work till the moment I arrive back home from work. And for most of us, that's someplace between 9 and 12 hours every single day. I don't like it. It's not right. It's immoral. That's my very, very strong opinion. Now, how do I reconcile that with property rights? I'm not quite sure. They have the right to do the things that they're doing to us. But I don't believe that it's the moral thing to do. To disarm another person is immoral. The only exceptions would that to be, are they a violent felon? They have a history of violent crime. Are they a danger to themselves and society? That's different. But a general employee, this guy, Gene Scholten, he wasn't hurting anyone. He didn't hurt a soul. All he wanted to do was protect himself and come home to his family at night. Are cops any different than that? No, they're not. You ask any police officer, they'll say, hey, I don't care what else happens, I'm going home to my family at night. That's reasonable. But to have a company say, listen, as a condition of employment, we're going to disarm you the entire day, 5 to 7 days a week. So if you're going to work for us, you're going to roll the dice and take your chances. I don't like it, folks. And maybe there are some employers out there who would disagree with me. I really don't care. If you want to call me up or send me an email, go ahead, skipcoryell@hotmail.com, and you can give me your pitch. But if I want to work for you, I have to put up with it. Therefore, I don't want to work for you. I worked in the corporate world for 25 years. For probably 7, 8 of those years, I had a concealed carry permit. And I, for the most part, bit the bullet and left my gun in the car. Now, they probably wouldn't have liked that either. It was a major company, an international corporation. And I'm sure it was probably against the rules for me to do that. And if they'd found out, they may have fired me. There was even times when I would carry my gun inside the workplace to my desk. Why? Because many times I would work late at night. And if I'm going to walk out at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night into a deserted parking lot because the company wanted me to work late and get a job done for them, then I am not going to take a chance on my own life. I'm just not going to do that. It's not worth it. It's not worth that $15, $20 an hour, whatever salary that they pay me. I shouldn't have to choose between my livelihood and my life. It's not right. And I know the devil's advocate would say, well, yeah, but the chances are you are not going to die. I mean, what are the odds, right? And they're right. The odds are not big that I'm going to be mugged and killed at 6 o'clock tonight. The problem is I don't know when and I don't know where. Security is never a problem until someone tries to kill you. And then it's the biggest problem you'll ever have in your entire life. So I will never agree that it is morally right to disarm another human being simply because you're paying them. In fact, I believe it to be morally reprehensible, and I scold everyone who's doing it right now. I respect Gene Scholten for doing what he did, and I'm glad that he had the guts to stand up to this company after the fact, even though he lost his job. I respect him for that. If anyone out there knows where he can get a job, let me know, and I'll make sure he gets your contact information. But I think you pretty much can plan on the fact that he won't work for anyone anymore who is going to violate his right to keep and bear arms. It's just like going to a store. You see that stupid pistol sign with a slash through it, no firearms allowed. I'm not going into that store. You can't have my money. And I think a lot of us have to make the decision, you know what? You can't have my talents. I will not work for you if you're going to violate my human rights. You can just kiss my redneck gun-toting ass because I will not work for you. I could never work in the private sector ever again because I've been spoiled. I have a gun right now, 9mm Smith & Wesson Shield Performance Center model. Got the ported barrel, enhanced trigger, beautiful gun. I will not disarm again for anyone. No person, no company, no government. I will never do it again. That's how strongly I feel about that. Okay, well, folks, I guess I've about stabbed that dead horse. So let's move on. In closing, you have to decide what's best for you and what you do. If you decide to voluntarily disarm, that's your business. I won't judge you for it. If you decide that no, you're not going to, be discreet. Don't tell anyone in your company, friends at home, family members, no one needs to know that you are carrying a firearm at work in violation of company policy. If you do, you're going to tell one person, they're going to tell one person, they're going to tell another person. It goes on and on. Eventually, it gets back to human resources, your boss, or someone that matters, and you will lose your job. I've had half a dozen former students call me and tell me they lost their job for that. And they said, well, I only told one person. That's the way it works. Don't tell anyone. It's no one else's business. It's between you and God. That's it. All right, folks. What are you going to do between now and next week? Well, you're going to protect your family. You're going to train. You're going to buy Civilian Combat, the concealed carry book. Go out on Amazon.com. It's right there. You're going to get some more advanced training. Go to MWTAC.com, Michael Whiskey Tango Alpha Charlie.com, and you're going to go ahead and sign up for an advanced class with me, yours truly, Skip Coryell. You need to do that. So that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Next week, we are going to be learning all about the criminal justice system. We will be talking about what it's like to be in a real, live murder trial. What is it like? The rules of evidence, all of those things. We'll be speaking with Joel Fulton from Freedom Firearms in Battle Creek, who sometimes serves as an expert witness or as a defense consultant for attorneys in homicide trials. Until then, remember that your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember God, family, country in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!